Hello and welcome to this webinar on how to get started with the new Quality, HSE and Security module. The agenda for today is to give you a brief introduction to the new QISADMIN application along with some practical information. We will then continue with the demo of the new application, followed by questions at the end. My name is Randi and the subject of this webinar is how to get started with the new QHSES module. Please note that this webinar will be recorded for training purposes, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask using the chat functionality or save them to the end of this session. I kindly ask you to mute yourselves during the presentation and unmute by the end if you have any questions or comments. The release of the new QHSES module includes an application called QISADMIN. This is a new administration tool that allows for flexible and translatable setup and configuration of the new QHSES module. Each company can set up the module differently depending on your company's requirements. You will need to have the QHSES administrator role enabled in order to use the QISADMIN application, but this role can be assigned by an employee in your organization with the appropriate access control. Now we will move over to RamBase for a demonstration on how to set up the new QHSES module using the QISADMIN application. To open the application, select Admin in the RamBase menu and then QHSES Administration. The QISADMIN application provides a tabbed interface for the administrative functions in QHSES. I will talk you through all the tabs in the QISADMIN application and show you how to set up the QHSES module. The desired setup will of course differ from company to company, but you should be able to set up and configure the module yourself after this webinar. The first tab is Issue Type. This tab is used to create, view, edit, and delete issue types. There will by default be one issue type registered in your system, and this one is called Incident. You will not be able to delete or edit this issue type as it is a global issue type. When using this issue type in the QIS application, you are also required to add actual consequences. If you fail to add actual consequences, you will get an error message informing you that actual consequences are missing and that it's required for incidents. To create a new issue type, you simply select the Add New Type button, enter a name for the issue in English, and finally select Create. The issue type will automatically be set to status 4, and it will immediately show up in the QIS application under Issue Type. You can edit the name by pressing the Edit icon next to the name. Here you will also be provided with the option of translating the name into other languages for use when you change the default language in RamBase. Simply press the X icon to deactivate the issue type. This will set it in status 9 and it will no longer show in the QIS application. It can, however, be reactivated again if necessary. Add as many issue types as you want. You can also use the search field to search for a specific issue type. The next tab is Issue Category. We recommend using this categorization for the different processes in your organization. This will make it easy to follow up the status and trends for the different processes, for instance through the use of a new widget that shows issues per category. Issue category is created the same way by pressing Add New Category, adding a name in English, and clicking Create. The new issue category is set to status 4 and will show in the KISS application. Translated names can be added by editing the issue category, and it can be deactivated by pressing the X icon. Add additional issue categories. The next tab is cause categories, which is further divided into direct causes and root causes. Direct cause is a contributing factor to an issue, while the root cause is the ultimate cause of the issue. If an employee falls down the stairs at work, a direct cause could be that the stairs was wet and slippery, but the root cause could be that the cleaning personnel had spilled water. The goal will always be to drill down to the root cause of an issue. There is by default one cause category in both direct cause and root cause. This one is called not specified, and as it is a global category, it cannot be edited or deleted. Not specified causes will be used on KISS issues where there is nothing added by the user yet. The cause categories, both the direct causes and the root causes, are created and maintained in the same way as issue type and issue category. The consequence area tab differs from the previous tabs. The first difference is that the new consequence areas that are made will be set to status 1 automatically and must be activated by clicking this radio button. The new consequence area will thus not be visible in the KISS application before it is activated and in status 4. Clicking on the radio button once more will disable the consequence area. Translated names can be added as before by pressing this icon. The second difference found in the consequence area tab is the added choices and functionality on the right-hand side. Here you find two tabs, one for severities and one for consequences. It will by default be set up 5 levels of severity, with severity level ranging from insignificant to severe. The corresponding severity ratings can be viewed here. Note that it's possible to edit labels for the individual severities for each consequence area. This makes for easier decision of correct severity level when the user is doing an assessment on a KISS issue. Consequences is by default empty, but you could add consequences from the consequence type list. Remember to first add the desired consequences under the consequence types tab. Adding consequences to the consequence area is strictly optional, meaning that you could simply leave it empty if you do not want to add consequences to the consequence area. Your desired detail level in QIS analysis should determine if you want to add data into the subtab or not. New consequence areas will always get the default severity ratings and an empty consequences subtab. The consequence types are added in the next tab. These can be reused in several different consequence areas. They are created by pressing this button, entering a name in English, and selecting Create. They are automatically set to status 4, but can be deactivated or reactivated using this button, and you can provide translated versions of the name. Cost categories are added as in the previous tabs, and the functionality is the same. It's important to emphasize that any cost that is registered on a QIS issue will not affect any accounts in RamBase. The cost itself is added on the QIS issue, while the category the cost can belong to are set up here. Under the Requirement Reference tab, you can add the requirements your company needs to operate after. It could be both external requirements, such as ISO requirements or the Working Environment Act, or internal requirements, such as an operating procedure or company policies. All requirement references set up in this tab will be selectable in the QIS application, making it possible to mark a specific issue with the appropriate requirement references. The requirement references are added as in the previous tabs, and the functionality is the same. The last tab is Settings, containing the various settings related to the new QHSES module. The first setting is QHSES Issue Default Due Date. The value in this setting is the default number of days until due date when creating a new issue. You can enter the desired number of days in this field. Setting it to 30 means that all new QIS issues created will receive a due date that is 30 days after the issue was registered. Note that this is only the default value and can be overwritten on an individual issue if necessary. You also have the option of turning this setting off, which means that due date will not automatically be filled out when creating a new QIS issue. You would then have to set the date manually for each issue you create. If this setting is off, reminder notifications will not be sent out to the person responsible for processing the issue. If your company usually handles a lot of cases that needs to be processed quickly, I recommend adding a low number of days here and instead set a longer due date on issues that need more time to be processed. If your company usually handles issues with a long processing time, I recommend adding a high number of days here and instead set a shorter due date on issues that should be processed quicker. The next setting is related to the review step of an issue. The review step will be performed by the owner of a process or a quality leader in your organization after all actions are completed. If this setting is on, the review step will by default be a part of the processing of an issue. But the review step could be skipped on individual issues if desired. If this setting is off, the review step will not be part of the processing by default, but could be added to individual issues. The next setting is risk assessment required to be finished on QHSES. If this setting is on, you will need to complete any risk assessments before closing the issue. If there are any uncompleted risk assessments, you will not be able to close the issue. If the setting is off, you will be able to close an issue that contains unfinished risk assessments. The next setting allows you to set mandatory fields when creating an issue. Title is required by default, but you can add the fields you want by typing them into this field, separated by a comma. These are the fields available when creating an issue, and any number of these can be set as mandatory, depending on the requirements of your company. We recommend adding either responsible or department as mandatory fields. The person set as responsible and/or the person that is head of the selected department will get the notification that the issue is created and will process the issue. If none of these fields are set as mandatory and the person registering the issue fails to add data into these fields, you risk that the issue is left unassigned and not processed any further. This setting needs to be turned on when you want to start using the new QIST application to register and process issues. Once this setting is on, you will no longer be able to create new QARs. It will not be possible to migrate issues from QAR to the new QIS, but if you have a manageable number of QAR issues, you can register them as QIS issues, preferably with a reference to the QAR number. Please note that you will still be able to process and complete open QAR issues after you have made a switch to QIS. The only difference is that you no longer will be able to register new QAR issues after this setting is turned on. The last setting contains risk score thresholds for low, medium, and high risk. The risk score ranges from 1 to 25, and this range cannot be changed. This is because the risk score is calculated based on the severity and the likelihood of an event, and both severity and likelihood ranges from 1 to 5. You do, however, have the option of dragging the sliders to set threshold values for risk scores, depending on your company's risk matrix. Please note that you have access to revisions for the different settings, allowing you to inspect any changes made and by whom they were made. Revisions can be found by clicking on this icon. That concludes the demonstration on how to get started with the new QHSES module using the QISADMIN application.